Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the long-awaited Popham Like It's Hot podcast. We started off in Auburn, Washington, and somehow, some way ended up in Dubuque, Iowa. And in Dubuque, Iowa, I met these fine two gentlemen. We got Christian Prull of Clark University. He's a pitcher. And we got Tommy Specht of the Texas Rangers, and he's an outfielder. Do you guys want to start off by introducing yourselves, Chris?
So yeah, I'm Christian Prull. I've been around the Dubuque area all my life. I kind of have developed myself into being a more competitive athlete. I went from being someone who was really, really bad to kind of just with talking with people like Casey and just working hard. I've kind of bettered myself and kind of putting myself in ability to compete more. Tom?
Yeah, my name's Tommy Specht. I grew up in Dubuque as well. I had, an interesting experience just going through high school, being, one of the top players in the country. So it was obviously an interesting thing to navigate for a teenage kid. So it's taught me, it was really fun, but it also taught me to mature very quickly. And, especially at the pro level, you go through a lot of different ups and downs. So it's helped grow me as a person. And, I look forward to kind of talking about some of those experiences today.
Yeah. And as we're talking today and going through the Superdome, we'll be sipping on, I know me and Christian are going to be sipping on some banana water. We got some coconut water and, of course, some Mountain Valley sparkling water. So we're just going to be talking about, and the first question that I kind of wanted to pick your guys' brains on is, within the last year, what is something that has changed about your life, baseball, or literally under the sun, that has made you either a better person or a better baseball player, or just in everything, every aspect?
Yeah, I'll start with this one. This is a very specific one, but you hear meditation all the time of being a positive thing. But I think when people think meditation, they think laying down, slowing your heart rate, taking deep breaths, which I think is good. But like my form, and you can call it meditation, but I think more so being at peace, because everyone wants to meditate to be at peace and have, a slower heart rate and just more controlled thoughts. But for me, like, I'm most at peace when I'm just very, I'd say, okay with everything that's bothering me, like insecurities and fears. Like if I'm okay with those in my life and I don't try to run from them, I feel more at peace about navigating the fears and the insecurities than escaping them through breath work and trying to get my mind off it. Because at the end of the day, you can, I feel like, do as much breath work and slow yourself down and not think about the stuff that makes you afraid of, whether it's in life or baseball. But like if you just are totally okay with what your life is, I feel like you're in a much more peaceful spot than running from stuff.
Yeah. Chris?
I'd say for me, kind of the biggest thing that's changed for me in the past year is just kind of my ability to take care of my body stretching wise. I just kind of was one of those people that like I just lifted all the time and like got decently strong at that, but I kind of noticed to see huge jumps in myself as a pitcher once I started stretching every single day after I lifted. And it's nothing crazy, a lot of T-spine, just things like that. I think the biggest thing is keeping a healthy spine, which allows you to not only perform better, but I've also noticed by doing the same lifts and things like that, I'm also getting a lot stronger too. And I think it's just by stretching more, I'm freeing up more space in my body for me to kind of improve myself.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Casey?
That's a great question. So I think for me, I'm kind of in between with playing and coaching and kind of doing a little bit of both right now. I think the main thing for me is that you can't really plan ahead. It's staying in the moment. And for me, I can't really sit down. I'm always thinking about the future, thinking about planning ahead. I'm a very competitive person just with myself, so I try to figure out what are ways that I could improve myself to eventually help others. And for me, it's just I kind of came to a point where I can only do so much before it starts deteriorating my own health. So I think just staying in the moment and being okay with not knowing a whole lot about baseball, because there are some really, really smart people in this world, and honestly, I just want to learn from them and try to contribute in specific ways if I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, is there anything that you've done to help with your? I know you talked about the mentality side of things. Is there any specific things that you have done that you kind of like now live by?
That's a good question. I mean, as far as performance wise, I'm someone that I can't, like, I've tried it plenty. I can't get psyched up before a game.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what the emotions are, no matter if I'm going good or bad, I can't get psyched up for a game because ultimately, like, that's gonna, it almost like when you're psyched up, you're feeling good, you drink caffeine or something, you stretch well, like, you have this almost false sense of, like, okay, I'm gonna succeed
Yeah.
because I did XYZ. But when you really think about it, like, doing training and taking care of your body and nutrition, those are very easy things to do.
Mm-hmm.
What's hard to do is go out and be consistent throughout a full season. So it's like, yes, with how necessary I think like those little things are, at the end of the day, like, you got to go perform.
Yeah.
Because like if you're a player, everything is for performing. So it's like trying to bridge that gap. So for me specifically, so I'm not getting too off topic, like, I just can't like get too psyched up. I have to stay in the moment. I have to take deep breaths. Like, even though I said, like, with my form of meditation, I'm not huge about just taking deep breaths, slowing down. But as far as like in the moment, in performance, when I am feeling anxiety, like slowing the heart rate down, being in the moment, knowing that nothing matters too much, because when I have, like this past season, I place unreasonable expectations on myself. And those are really hard to live up to because obviously as a confident person, like, you don't settle for anything short of perfection.
Yeah.
And it's a good mindset to have, but it can also beat you up at the same time when you aren't settling for anything short of perfect. So I think just like being okay with, like, I might fail, I might succeed, but I did everything I can, and now I'm just gonna go between the lines and play.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really powerful. Have you experiment with anything?
I've talked to both of you guys about this a little bit about, I mean, kind of going off of him and expectations. I've kind of noticed that when I pitch or perform the best is when expectations are absolutely zero. And that's kind of something I've learned about myself. So when I do get into a big moment, like, it's kind of like, well, we'll see what happens. Because the second you start putting that pressure on yourself, you kind of speak it into existence. If you start, oh, it's a big moment, I have to come through, I have to do this. That's when, like, you can't force it. You just gotta stay calm, let nature take its course, and just do what you can do.
And another thing I want to add to that too, my buddy this year, when I was going through kind of a tougher time, kind of beating myself up mentally, not sure what to do, he just like kind of looked me in the eyes and said, dude, nobody cares.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing to hear. Like, dude, nobody cares that much about how someone else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see your teammates succeed, but like, no one wants to see you fail. And also, like, nobody necessarily goes home and thinks about what you do. Everyone's living their own life. Everyone's fighting their own battles, having their own successes. Like, nobody cares that much. And I think a lot of that, like, pressure comes from just validation from others too. So I feel like once you can get free to that and just live your own life, play how you want to play, train how you want to train, I feel like it frees you up completely.
Yeah, and I think and I know I'm very, very passionate about, from a very young age, I've thought of a correlation between confidence, self-growth. So I've read a lot of self-help books. I think that has a connection to performance, because if you, in order to perform well on the field, you have to be comfortable in your skin off the field. Like, that's just the reality of things. I think you can really tell in between the lines of people who are not comfortable in their skin off the field and how that translates in their performance, because when things are going up and when things are going down, you can see who stays level and stays composed and not riding those waves. It's kind of interesting that you guys are more going off the mentality side of things than anything. Is there anything, I know you mentioned a lot of stretching stuff. Is there anything Tom, that you switch up? Because I know I've watched you train for a while now. Is there anything that you have switched up, maybe on the hitting side of things, that you're approaching a little bit differently based off of, it's your second year in Pro Bowl?
Yeah.
Your second year. Like,
yeah.
What's like the biggest difference that you have seen from when you first getting drafted to now? Like, what is some big difference? And then for you, we'll go after.
Yeah. So on the hitting side, I mean, I got drafted, it would have been a little over 2 years ago, 18 years old, very toolsy. I could hit the ball a mile in batting practice, I could make consistent contact, but, I was still a very raw hitter.
Mm-hmm.
So getting the Pro Bowl, like, I got humbled right away, as, you expect most high school kids to, from facing high school arms to now, like, you jump a few levels, and then you're facing guys that are really good. And there's the wood bat thing. They're more throwing harder, better stuff. Like, so I think like I got humbled right away for sure, but I started to kind of figure it out, almost like, if it makes sense, almost like mindlessly.
Yeah.
Like I just kept taking at bats and figuring out little things along the way. So my first year in pro ball was all just like figuring out pitchers, understand a game plan. It wasn't much mechanics at all, because as long as I was hitting line drives, like I didn't necessarily care about power numbers or anything like that. Like definitely ran into a few, but like it was just all from game planning and getting my best swing off. Being an athletic 18-year-old, I think I didn't have the strength I have now, but it was more just like finding a way. And my first year in pro ball, I worked with some hitting coaches and stuff, and it was all good stuff. But I think there's always an extreme you can go, especially on the hitting side and pitching side too, when you really trust someone. And I have a lot of good coaches that I trust, but like you almost sometimes can take things too far. And I didn't exactly realize like some philosophies, like a teacher man thing, or like a scissor kick or decel, like you can always take it too far. There's always an opposite side of the spectrum. So I kind of got a little too much into the philosophies of hitting and trying to find this one thing that clicked. And then after kind of doing the same thing this year, I just kind of come to terms with like, you, as cliche as it sounds, like you have to find how you move, what works for you. And what might work for you in the early start of the season in April your swing is gonna feel different in July.
Yeah.
If like I watch video from spring training to the end of the season, it's gonna feel different. It's gonna look different because things happen. Like you have to adjust to failure. You have to almost adjust to success too to sustain it. So it's a constant chase. But I think just to sum it up, like there's no right or wrong. There's no one philosophy that works. But like bits and pieces from everything, I think is the biggest thing that I'm focused on currently as a hitter.
Yeah. And I know for just the pitching side of things, that can be applied to so many different aspects as well, because I think a lot of people get into the mindset, especially kind of tailoring this thought towards the off season of just like, if let's say a guy's struggling, like I know we've talked about how one of your goals is to gain velocity this season. There's so many ways to do that I think it really is essential to kind of have some sort of assessment and kind of gauging based on what you are and what type of throwing you've done in the past to gauge what we should do in the future. Just like you, Tom, you weren't doing the same thing that you did last season. That's the definition of insanity, because you're not going to get better.
Exactly.
The same thing with throwing hard. Like you have to do things differently rather than just doing the same thing over and over and over again. Have you noticed anything, or what have?
Yeah, so I was kind of going to go off. I mean, kind of the same mindset or whatever, that there's really no one set way. I'm just kind of looking at when I've made my big velo jumps from when I was a sophomore in high school.
Oh, Christian is also a junior?
Yes,
Senior?
junior.
Junior, yeah, junior, by the way.
So 5 years ago when I kind of first started getting into pitching more, like that was when I first got my first plyo set. Something I've never experienced before.
Yeah.
Did them routinely every single day, just no instruction, just I'm going to throw these hard. And went from like 70 to like 81.
Yeah.
And so then I kind of like through high school, just keep playing, getting older, stronger, got up a little bit more. And then after my freshman and sophomore year of college, I kind of hit a block where I was stuck again. I felt stuck, and I realized like I wasn't really doing anything that challenged me. I was just playing catch every day. I was lifting the similar programs, I wasn't really doing anything extra, eating the same things. And then this off season, when I got my jump again, I kind of, first of all, I submerged myself into baseball a little bit more, instead of I was a kid who was like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do for a job someday, things like that. I was like, you know what, like this is my off season. I'm focusing strictly on baseball. Like this is what I'm going to do. Challenge myself with like circuit workouts, like a velo program with a local guy around here, and just like challenge myself to do something I've never done before. And like boom, velo jumps again, along with the stretching. That's when I got into that. So I think it's honestly like there's really no direct one simple formula of throwing harder or hitting a baseball, or however you want to look at it. It's honestly just putting yourself in to a new realm of baseball that you haven't touched before. Because I know we've talked about it. It's like, do I go somewhere? Do I do this? Like, what do I need to do to throw harder? And there really isn't one set answer. And there's no kind of what you talked about of you have to stay in the present. Like, focus on what you're doing today. You know, there's no point in planning out your life 6 months from now and how you're going to train there. Like, stick to your plan, find new ways to challenge yourself, and that's just kind of how I see improving yourself at pitching wise.
Yeah, no, I think you could take that mentality to so many different things. You could say, like, even in the pro ball sector, like, you can go from one level to the next and you struggle a little bit. From college, that's like you can go from one level to the next, struggle a little bit. It's a learning curve. Is there anything that, as far as the throwing side of things, what have you been doing? I guess that's different. You said you've been going through a velo program, and that's been kind of immersing yourself. But what are, if you don't mind me asking, some specific things that you are doing that you credit, I guess, throwing harder to, throwing better strikes, better stuff?
Like right now or previously?
Let's say within the last 6 months.
In the last 6 months, I would say the one thing that's helped me command-wise, I will say, and just stuff-wise, is my throwing partners probably hate me for this, but I've like noticed, or like one thing I do routinely is every single day I play catch with somebody, I will throw all of my pitches many times at not 100%, but I mean I would say around 80%, enough intent to where like it's very similar to what you do in game, and that's just flat ground, playing around with your grips and things like that. Because I mean, when you think about it, if you're not familiar with your grips, like it's gonna be tough to locate anything, and especially the emphasis on the fastball. I used to be like, oh, I don't need to throw fastballs in catch play, or like aim at a target at the very end playing flat ground catch. Yeah. And that's one thing I started doing. I noticed I gained a lot more command for my fastball because you go through the same process, coming set, taking the breath, lifting up your leg, throwing a strike.
Yeah.
And then it's just so much easier to translate once you get on the mound. That's the big jump that I saw, because I struggle a lot with command issues my freshman, kind of going into my sophomore year. And I would say about kind of halfway through my sophomore year, kind of in the wintertime, so about a year ago is when I started implementing every single day I play catch, I'm throwing all my grips. That really helped me command-wise, I would say.
Okay. It's kind of interesting because you could bring, and you can attest to this too, Tom, like as a hitter, you're probably seeing a little bit less usage of fastballs depending on the guy, but in a general sense?
Yes, in a general sense, but I mean, like, they're good. Like, it goes without saying, they're good. Like, they'll find your weakness. If you don't hit fastballs well, you're getting heaters at the top.
Yeah.
If you crush fastballs, you don't see a lot of fastballs.
Exactly.
Like, the logic of it, like, that's exactly it.
And I feel like it's interesting because I feel like as the game is trending towards, and this is a very general broad, like if you have an elite fastball, like you're going to throw that, of course, but like in a general sense, I feel like a lot of guys are relying more on their breaking balls and the higher usage of a cutter or a sinker or different types of things that just aren't going straight and chase invert. I think with that mentality, I wonder if a lot more people in catch play are going to throw less of a regular four seam and strictly go straight to off speed or whatever their pitch is. It's just kind of an interesting thing to think about. I don't know if that's going to be change or anything.
I mean, I will say a majority of my grip catches all off speed.
Yeah.
I open it up with fastballs. I hit my spots. It's like, all right, here's where we work on the off speed. Flip 3 to 4 good curveballs, 3 to 4 good sliders, locate some changeups, get the splitter. All right, like I'm familiar with everything. Like everything feels good. All right, let's close it out. 2 more fastballs, 2 each side. Boom.
Yeah.
That's kind of just way to make me feel confident with myself, because there's some days like you really don't feel a pitch, and some days, you know, it's okay, today's not my day, you know, whatever. Like there's gonna be some days where you just don't have something, but 90% of the time I'm leaving catch play like, all right, like yes, I threw some bad curveballs, I was leaving them up, whatever, but you know, towards the end I got 2 really good ones right there. Like that's the feeling I need on to the next day, you know.
Yeah. And like trying to translate that to the hitting side of things, is there anything? I know we kind of just went on a broad rant there, but like Is there anything that you can equivalent that to in your process when it comes to actually hitting stuff? I know that we've talked about some new mechanical stuff that you're going through.
Yeah. I think a couple things there, like with what Chris said about trying all his new pitches in catch, or all his pitches in catch play. Like, it's the same thing. I would equate that to almost like BP. Like, I understand there's guys like Freeman who, like, you know, they're gonna get jammed, they're gonna hit ground balls to shorts out. It's necessary if you're an external thinker and you need to focus on that of hitting, on that side of hitting. But like for me, like, though, like, I will do that sometimes, like, just get on plane, like, hitting a ground ball to shortstop keeps me on it, but like, I want to practice hitting line drives. I want to practice backspin the ball over the fence too, you know. So it's like I can't expect like necessarily to go take a whole BP of rolling over, hitting the ball on the ground, and just like, okay, I'm gonna go turn on something in the game.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like just like figuring that out, like getting that feeling of like seeing a pitch closer to you and doing something with it. You know, because I think there's a lot of just guys that take BP that just like will flick the ball into the ground and like, yeah, I'm working on stuff, I'm working on path, but like I think there comes a time, and I was one of those guys that would do that. I'd take a boring BP, everything the other way, and I can hit the ball the other way really well. But with how the game's going, like we said with pitching, like you got to be able to hit the ball hard, and you got to be able to hit doubles and homers.
Yeah.
And that comes from pull side. You can hit it backside for sure. Like there's opportunity there, but like you got to be able to turn around a 95-mile-an-hour heater in or half and hit it out. You know, and it's something I've done, but I like throughout a long season, I play over 100 games. Like I've done it, but it's like it's something that needs to show up more. So therefore, in my practice, it needs to show up a little bit more.
So as far as what is a way besides just switching up your mentality that you're training to do that?
Like my mentality, or like
not mentality wise. Like, so I know you're saying you're practicing more, but is there any implements that you're using? Is there any more, like, is there anything that you're doing?
Yeah.
Besides just trying to think backspin over.
Of course. Yeah. So I'm a left-hand hitter. My dominant hand is in my bottom hand, so naturally I'm gonna slide right here. That's a move engraved in me.
Yeah.
I screwed up last offseason when I tried to figure out how to adjust from my front side. So there was no low, there was no backside low. There was get to my front side, block off, and adjust here.
So you were trying to more focus on the deceleration part with your front leg?
More the deceleration part of my front leg. Okay. And that's why I was talking to you guys, like, I hit off speed better this year than I did heaters. And it's like, yeah, it's good that, you know, I'm starting to figure out how to hit professional off speed, but at the same time, like, I just think about all the missed opportunities on heaters that I could have trained. And I think a lot of that, if we're talking specific mechanics, I'm more convinced now in a deeper turn.
Yeah.
A deeper turn, like you can call it the snap, the teacher man, whatever, but like a deeper turn into the zone. I want to be deep with my entry. If I miss, I want to flare, but like I'm not trying to flare.
Yeah.
You know, but it's more so just like I'm open to flaring even if I'm jammed a little bit. I'd rather get jammed than be out front and hit it off the end. Because then, like, I thought it was the other way around last year, and everyone hits differently, everyone pitches differently. I thought that if I'm out front, I just have to stay back. But I didn't train to stay back. Like, I trained to get to my front foot. I trained a positive move.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's why I feel like training is so important, how you operate your training sessions. Like, in my logic, it's like, okay, like, if I'm out front, I can easily stay back, like I said, but I didn't train it. So therefore, this offseason, like, I'm getting back to my backside, staying stacked to my backside. And then, like, in my mind, with how my body works, it's the opposite thing. If I'm drilling the backside and I'm getting too stuck, I just got to get forward. That's what I've done my whole life. So it's like that's why everyone has such different fixes and swing paths and mechanics and movement is so different. But like that's just me personally. That like I'm more comfortable with training back because if the time comes and I'm stuck, top spinning, just get forward and I'll be evened out.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because you're just doing the exact opposite of what you're naturally doing. So I wonder if you thinking that deep turn. I wonder if probably I'm guessing mid-season if you go back to what you naturally it would just kind of say that's just talking about the future, but it's kind of interesting, and you can kind of equivalent that to a variety of different things. I'm just thinking because I know like I originally I got into baseball as a hitting guy, loved talking hitting, kind of transitioned more into the pitching side of things, and I feel like you can kind of see that in the pitching side of things as well. Like I know there's a lot of talk now about like pitch designing new pitches and all that stuff, and I feel like a lot of people have a natural feel for a certain, like whether they're if they're more prone to cutting the ball or pronating the ball, like there's different things. And I just think it's kind of fascinating to think about that whole process, and is there a way to teach a person if they're more, let's say they're more like a sweeper, cutter type of person, is there a way to teach them to pronate a little bit more, or to teach them to be a pronator? Or for you, if a guy's way stuck on his backside, you're saying you can think about thinking more of like a front leg sort of thing. I don't know, maybe that's a far-fetched thought, but I was trying to equivalate the two.
And it's crazy because if you really analyze video, it's such a micro adjustment at the end of the day, but like the feel feels totally different. Because I'm also a firm believer in what's ingrained in you with your movement patterns will always be there. Like I don't think you can reinvent yourself and just totally redesign yourself. Like what you have and how you move is how you move. It's just a matter of finding little things along the way. It's just going to get you centered again. Because like I said, if you're maybe feeding into like what is naturally ingrained. So for me, it's here. I can't go further than that because that's something I've always done. So that's why I have to think here. But if you look on video, it's still like you'll still see it a little bit, but the barrel accuracy is better. You know, so it's so small. Like, but like I'm a firm believer. I don't think you can necessarily reinvent how you move. I think you can change little things here and there, but how you move is how you move, and how you process things is how you process things.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add with that?
Yeah, I was gonna compare the kind of how he feels swinging compared to me pitching. I used to be kind of going back a long way. I was always somebody who my problem was always getting stuck in my back half. That would
Stuck how so?
like
You can also stand up if you want to.
No, essentially I would have trouble getting everything out front. I would get stuck behind here, and that would cause me to miss everything up.
Okay.
That was back when I wasn't as explosive and efficient as a mover as I am now. So looking at where I am now, I realize one of the problems, or like one of the adjustments that I feel like I need to make is since I'm kind of so scared to get into my backside, I get way too jumpy on my front side, causing me to kind of get up on my toe upon landing, and also rush myself, come across, cut the ball, or pull things into the left-hander's batter's box.
Yeah.
So one thing I realize now is, okay, I can move better out of a position more in my back half. Like I have trained to where I can get more into my backside and move out of it now.
And how did you do? Because I know that I've worked with a few athletes that have that same exact problem. How have you gone about doing that? How have you trained your body to integrate that new pattern?
So, I mean, this is something pretty new. I mean, it's kind of been my focus more in this Velo program we've done, and it's more
this year.
This year,
Okay.
yes. And honestly, it's just with every throw, and sometimes like I kind of my brain turns off. I notice, I'm on my like toe again. Like I'm like too anxious to throw. Like, because I mean, you look at people who throw hard, and it's not really fast. It's like smooth, boom. Like there it is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like watching now. I was like, oh, like I'm not doing that. Like that's something so small, but like I'm not doing that. Like no wonder why I'm not possibly throwing harder is because I'm so anxious to throw the ball. Like I have to get there instead of just keeping everything smooth and slow and then exploding out of a position that gives me more power.
It's almost just like controlling that aggression.
Yes.
It's almost being okay, like being comfortable with being relaxed here, and then as the arm is flipping up, then it's like, okay, it's go time.
Exactly.
And I know that we've talked about things to go through that.
And I guess just training wise, like the thing I've done is I've just challenged, like kind of like overcorrecting it.
Yeah.
Essentially. So in like majority of my throws, I still do like my certain routine throws that I do, but kind of once I start kind of building out a little bit more, I just try and feel getting into my like kind of my hip and my backside as much as I possibly can. When I'm on the mound, am I gonna get into it that much? More than likely not.
Yeah.
Like I mean, turning deep into it, kind of just feeling holding it, letting my foot land and getting out of it there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, okay, like I'm gonna train it like that because I know, like me being somebody who's anxious to get on my front side, like I'm gonna get on my front side. Like I know I'm gonna get there, But if I can just hold this a little bit longer and like overcorrect it when I train, when I get on the mound, like it'll be hopefully where I want it to be.
And I wonder too if that's just. I wonder how often are you off the slope?
I like to go off the slope as much as I can. I like to do it a lot with my plyos
Okay.
and hip core velo bands.
Mhm.
That's when I do most of it. It kind of depends on where we're at in our training wise. So for velo wise, we would do a pen once a week and pull downs once a week. So it was more just strategized to like just throw hard. It wasn't necessarily like, okay, we're gonna get on the mound a bunch.
Mhm.
But me personally, I like throwing my plyos off the mound, doing hip core on the mound. Just, you feel the slope, and I don't know. It's kind of just a personal preference thing.
Yeah, yeah. I was just curious if maybe that would clean up if you were to regulate different types of throwing intensities on the mound, right? Because like if you're doing a recovery day off the mound, you're not gonna try to let it eat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's almost like integrating into your brain of like when you're on the slope, you can control your intensities to maybe it would integrate that thought process of like slow, like bam, because you've done it before. Right? Because a lot of people, I feel like they just are off the slope in the bullpen setting.
Yeah.
So they're always go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just a thought. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to think off the dome here, but yeah, guys, let me check what time we got. So like I'm trying to think of what is one thing about your guys' path so far? You guys are both still very young, two different parts of baseball right now, but what is one thing about your path that knowing what you know now, you would change? So like if you could do it all over again, let's say there's 7-year-old Johnny, right, that's watching this podcast. What would you recommend for 7-year-old Johnny to do in order to get to the positions that you guys are at? And then I can chime in as well after. But I kind of want to just see where your guys' thoughts are.
Like knowing what, like with what we've seen now, or if there's anything we change.
See, like we could talk about what you would change in your own journey, and then what you would recommend, like an 8-year-old to do based on what you know now.
Sure. Yeah. No. 100%. It's a good question. There's a few things I'd change later in high school, but like, 10 years old, middle school, whatever. Like, I wouldn't change a thing about high school, because when I was about in 6th grade, so however old that would be, I went to a hitting lesson that my dad got me, and I sat down with the coach and I said, like, it was a former major leaguer. I said, well, what can I do to become a major league baseball player one day? I was in 6th grade, skinny, like hit 9th on my travel team. And so from there, he just said, I want you to take 25 swings doing the step back drill a day and then 25 normal swings a day.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously when you're in 6th grade, you're going to trust everything. And obviously you can look into the philosophy like, oh, maybe like you should try other drills too. But it was more so just like, okay, I got to hit every single day. So, and that started from 6th grade, tee in my garage after basketball practice in basketball shoes and my basketball jersey, like 25 swings, step back drill a day, and then 25 normal swings a day. And I'd cut it at that. So 50 swings a day. And I can't remember, I don't think I missed a single day in middle school or high school hitting. Like, and it almost turned into like, when I was in middle school, like I just wanted to be a professional baseball player one day. So like I was chasing that, like, okay, if I do this, then I'm going to be a professional baseball player. So it was more those habits ingrained. But then over time, when you start to get more intrigued, things start working out for you a little bit. It's like, okay, like, can I take this a little further? Can I dive in a little deeper to different philosophies? Mm-hmm. And so that's when I would spend so much time on Instagram looking at drills and watching big league swings and stuff like that. Yeah. And that was like in high school. So like, it's like every year, and I'm like, extremely, proud to say that I feel like every year in high school I took a jump up. It went from I wanted to make varsity as a freshman to getting a Division I scholarship to being considered for the draft to getting drafted. Like every year I feel like I got a little bit better, and it's just a testament to like being overly obsessive from a very young age about my work. And for me, that was hitting every single day, not just going through the motions. Like as I got older, I realized like I got to do this with a purpose.
Yeah.
So it was more that habit ingrained in me. if there is one thing I could change, though, when you're 16, 17 years old, you're making All-American games, and you have, an image, you have an agent talking about, dollar figures, and you're sitting in school and you think that maybe in 6 months I could have a lot of money. And it's like, it's a lot for a 17-year-old to process. So that's kind of when the pressure, unneeded pressure started on me. So it's like, once you kind of get to that point, like, all the pressure, it wasn't with scouts, it wasn't with my agent, it wasn't with my parents. It was like, okay, like, there's money involved now, whether it's a scholarship or a signing bonus, like, there's money involved now, I got to step it up even more. And so, like, my work stepped up. I graduated early from high school, and I trained and I trained and I trained. But the aspect on that was, then I started putting too much pressure on myself on the field. Though the spring went well, everything worked out, like, those are just things that kind of started to kind of get ingrained in me just from putting too much pressure on myself at a young age of 17.
Yeah.
And it's something I'm still trying to battle, because, obviously every single year, every single level you go up, you're closer to being told you're not good enough anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like there's more pressure from the baseball world, and it's just a matter of navigating that. So I think, like, whether you're in middle school, high school, college, professional level, like, you've got to play your own game, and you have to be very sure of what you're doing, and just know that if you put in the work, like, let it show on the field. And it's very cliche, but, like, once you put in all your work, you need to just, like, go show why you're in that position.
Yeah.
Because, like, for me, it was March of my senior year, like, 45 scouts lined up along the line with, like, video cameras, and it's like, gosh, like how did this all happen? Like, I gotta go make something happen. So you could kind of put those things on yourself a little bit. Like, there's expectations of me now. Like, it's not 15-year-old who just wanted to go play varsity baseball. Like, there's real baseball world expectations. So it's just a matter of navigating that. Like, no matter what the situation is, like, stay present, stay within. And because I was someone who looked to the future a lot too. I looked at getting out of high school and getting into an organization, and it all happened, but, like, you have to stay in the present, take care of what's in front of you instead of looking too far. Because, I mean, I was trying to hit a 6-run homer every time. Yeah. And, like, though, like, when you get away with stuff when you're facing high school competition, but, like, that stuff, like, is kind of got ingrained in me a little bit, and that's just something I'm looking to navigate. But it's also not the worst thing in the world, because it shows that you do care. Because you have to have a level of care. Like, there's a lot of people who you say, oh, that person just does not care. Everyone cares a little bit, they just express it differently. So I think it's just finding, like, your perfect balance of, like, obsession, but also, like, being within.
Yeah, and I think we've all come across people that have had no care and have performed well, and have cared a bunch and performed well. There's not one, just like with this whole entire conversation, there's not one, like, straight line to the end goal. The pressure thing is, like, a big passion of mine as well, because I've experienced that, and I totally get granted, like, not in that aspect, but just putting pressure on myself. And the one thing that, like, I know with the athletes that I've coached that have struggled with the yips or struggled with just overall pressure is, like, a lot of them have played. Did you guys play wiffle ball growing up?
Of course.
Like, why have we changed how we are playing the game of baseball? Like, why don't we just play like wiffle ball? Like, what? Yeah, we're doing all this different training. I know that you guys know about that. I've gone into so many different rabbit holes about, like, training and all this stuff. But, like, none of it matters, because if you don't have fun, first off, if you don't have fun playing it, why are you doing it at all? 2, if you're not playing relaxed, like you're just playing in the backyard with your buddies, in my opinion, I don't think you're going to be performing as well. And on the flip side of that, some guys do have to think it's the fight or flight sort of thing, like you're going to die on the baseball field if you don't. So it's just kind of an interesting conversation to have. I know for me, I would have changed a few things when it came to that mindset. But what about you, Chris? What would you change? Then what would you recommend 8-year-old Johnny to do?
So I guess just me personally, one thing that I would change is, so I came into college as I'm only going to hit. Like, pitching was just kind of something I did in high school. And, like, I was always a good pitcher, but, like, I never focused on it at all. Like, if I was working out for baseball, I was hitting every day. And I would say the big change I would have made is I just would have focused on pitching earlier. Yeah. I do think it has had some, like, positive effects on me, since I was so focused on hitting and catching. I feel like my arm has a lot less miles on it, and knock on wood, I've had a healthy arm so far. I haven't ran into any injuries and things like that. So I guess my thing is I just wish I would have focused and kind of looked in the mirror and realized what I was naturally good at right away. Because like there's no shame in, I mean, I guess when I was in high school, being a PO wasn't, I mean, I came from a small high school, so being a PO wasn't really a thought in my mind at that point. And then obviously as I kind of kept increasing level-wise, I realized it was an option and kind of leading me where I am. So I just wish I would have focused on what I was good at more instead of focusing on something that wasn't going to take me.
And I think too, like we talk about like what we could have done differently, but like kind of what I've realized is like, and like I mean this when I say it, like I think like your journey, like you don't want to change a thing about your journey because it made you who you are.
This is a hypothetical.
Yeah,
just for the
100%,
viewer,
yeah.
hypothetical.
100%. But it's like those are little things I would have probably gone about differently. But I think your journey and what you go through, your struggles and your successes, it makes you who you are.
Yeah.
As a baseball player, as a person too, potentially. But like that's why I feel like if you're just totally like okay with like this is my journey and I'm gonna like live it, because like I'm 20 years old and there's a couple of 20-year-olds in the big leagues, but it's like that's their journey. Like that's really freaking cool.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, like this good things take time. But if you like are just fully bought into the fact that like your journey is your journey and it made you who you are and it's gonna make you who you're gonna be, however long you play, like I feel like you're in a much better mental spot just knowing like everyone has a different path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that, and just going back off that, and then we'll get to what you would tell 8-year-old Johnny about. I think that kind of led me to the decision. I know that I've talked to both of you guys about like me kind of taking a little break from playing because of because of the yips, and I think that everyone has a different path. Like I'm a huge Dodger fan. I'm from Los Angeles, so there's a guy named Andrew Tolles. Do you guys recognize that name? And he was an outfielder for the Dodgers, and he literally was in the big leagues. But 3 years prior, he was working at a grocery store.
Yeah.
So it's like there's so many different stories like that, and those stories are so cool.
Yeah.
And I think for you guys as the viewer, right? Like if you're a high school kid getting drafted, please do not put pressure on yourself to get to a certain level because your friends are doing that, or because you're seeing a bunch of stuff on social media. It's a lot of the stuff on social media, one is fake. A lot of people just put their best on there rather than the whole entire process of struggle. But two, your journey is specific to you. It's specific to, like, Christian's journey is specific to him, mine to mine, Tommy's to Tommy's. Like, it's so specific that you should, as Tommy just said, embrace it. But going back to what you were talking about, what would you tell 8-year-old Johnny about? I know I just kind of told but what would you tell a person growing up?
So I got two things. First piece of advice is pretty simple. Essentially, it's just don't really care what other people necessarily think about you.
Yeah.
What you think about yourself, and honestly, what your parents think about yourself are kind of like really the only two things that should honestly mean something to you. I was a person just growing up, I kind of always cared what people thought of me, and I like would do things to try and fit in with people, and I still fall into that trap sometimes. It's really easy to give into like the people around you if they're not on the same path or even just have the same motivation that you do.
Yeah.
So honestly, just be yourself, do what you want to do, because if your goal is to make it to I know me and Tom talked about that. He had the goal of making it to the big leagues, and I mean skipping out on prom and stuff because he wanted to go hit. Like there's no shame in that. Like like there's gonna be people that are like, oh, like, you're missing out. Da, 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 da. It's like who cares? Like if that's what you think or that's what you want, then there's no shame in that. And you know what? If you come up short, like realistically, not everyone's gonna make it to the big.
Yeah.
Leagues. Like everyone has that goal.
Yeah.
And you know, if you can, the biggest piece of advice I've gotten told is, at the end of the day, if you look in the mirror and say I did everything I could to get to where I wanted to be, then you can be happy with that.
Yeah, 100%.
And then the second thing is kind of similar, just kind of like another little piece of advice is just do things that challenge you. Like challenge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of crazy today for our practice. We had to do 200 like ab workouts or like 200.
That sounds
like,
terrible, but yeah.
Yeah,
go on,
it wasn't the greatest, but and I was doing them, and I was like, there was a time in my life in high school that I did 100 crunches a day and 100 push-ups a day.
Yeah.
Like, completely forgot about it until now. Same thing with Tommy. Like, I used to hit every day. I got to the point where I was lifting every day. When you get into the habit of, I literally used to keep a log of how many hours I spent lifting and doing baseball workouts each day.
Mm-hmm.
When you can do something like that and just, it's a challenge. Like, it's hard to.
Keeps you accountable.
Yes, exactly. But when you do that at such a young age, like when nobody else is doing that, let me tell you, it makes it so much easier to hit school deadlines, show up to morning weights, not be late, show up early to anything.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing that I am thankful I did. However far I make it in baseball, just as life. Like I can't stand being late to things, but I think it all stems from me holding myself accountable to if it's doing 100 push-ups and crunches a day, or if it's getting the tee out and swinging into a net in my backyard because I didn't have time or I wasn't able to go to the hitting facility. Like little things like that I feel like go such a long way and people just don't really realize that.
And I think another thing too for the viewers, like it's all about, I'm sure everyone's heard it, it's all about who you surround yourself with too. You know, because like these are like we're three ambitious young men, like we're trying to find our way, but like we all want, you know, similar things, and it's not all like the big leagues or a good coaching job or something like that. Like we're just ambitious to better ourselves. So it's like that's why it's so important to find a good group of people who share a similar, like doesn't have to be the same goal, but people who want to better themselves. They do stuff for them, because like, you know, ultimately, like, if you're hanging around the wrong people who do the wrong stuff, like, you're just going to be one of them. But, and if you really think about it, if you're with those people, like, they don't want the same things as you.
Yeah.
You know, so hanging around people who want to be better as a player, as a person, as an athlete, whatever that may be, does so many good things for you. Just surrounding yourself with that in, like, a training environment or at the field, in the weight room, whatever that is so important, because you just, like, if you're around 5 people that don't care about themselves, that are just gonna do whatever, have fun, like you'll be the 6th person, you know, like you'll get dragged into that. Like it's very hard, especially at a young age, to stay disciplined and do your own thing. But you have to be okay with being alone doing it, you know, because there were so many years where I was the only one hitting. Like that's why I got really good at hitting off the tee, because I mean I didn't have many people to hit with at some points. But like it's just like you have to be okay with that, with like not being the most popular liked kid in school, because if you're chasing something and you're trying to better yourself, like it's not all about the big leagues or drafted or college, like it's just about bettering yourself every single day. And on top of that, like it keeps you out of trouble too, you know, it keeps your head on straight. And like Chris said, like when you are at the level where you have to wake up early or be at a practice or turn in an assignment, like you build these disciplined habits from a young age.
No, I totally agree. And you know, I the amount of like park fences that I've jumped to just do some random baseball 100%. Stuff is crazy. Like I think for me, I've had probably a very, I know we never even talked about that. I think I've had a very similar path to what you had growing up as well. It just brought back a ton of memories in high school, just doing some random stuff by myself in my garage or just in a park or something. Actually,
I want to, this is off script a little bit. There's really no script, but how about we each share our like grittiest training moment from growing up in high school?
Grittiest training moment,
or something you did.
Are you talking about like a phase we had, or like just
how about I share mine and you guys go off that. So I got a few. It was Christmas Day and Easter Sunday. Obviously, no one's hitting. I obviously text people, you want to hit? Like, no, I'm not hitting on Christmas, not hitting on Easter.
Yeah.
But I opened up this facility, and I hit off the tee for about an hour. I threw into a net with a pocket radar, and then there was this big hill, and I'd always like run this big hill. And then on top of that, like, you know, January in Iowa was very cold, but I remember there was this one day where like the ice melted out of this parking lot. I continued to monitor it. So I went at probably like 7 at night when it was pretty dark at that time, and I turned like the my headlights on of my car, and I just ran like a 60-yard dash in the parking lot and set my phone up, and I like timed myself on my phone, like just in a parking lot, like January, like I was like just like bundled up a little bit, but like that's probably like my grittiest training moment in high school. But it's like you don't know any better. Like you want to go do it because like I always felt so weird like sitting around not doing anything.
Yeah. I think I'll go next. I have two. One was I used to drive like 2 hours every single day because of the LA traffic to a training facility to just like hit and throw after every single day. So once school got out, would go, if I didn't have practice or anything, would go even sometimes after practice, like 5 o'clock. And if any of you guys are from LA, you know 5 o'clock traffic in LA is not the best. That, and then I also, as soon as you said the light thing, I had this thought that one time, it was like 11 o'clock at night one time in this really like sketchy park, and I just had practice. I had a few things going on, and I had like a pull down day, right? So I go into this like beat up cage. It's pitch black, mind you. There are zero lights. I have a tripod, like a tripod where one of the legs are broken, a pocket radar, a like 6 ounce, 5 ounce, and 4 ounce ball. And I literally remember putting my phone up on one of the legs with a flashlight and just started pulling down at like 11:30 at night. And just thinking about that, like, was it probably not the most optimal thing? Yeah, but like I look back at it was fun. Like I was literally by myself blasting like, I don't know, probably Katy Perry or something, and just trying to, I don't know, try to train myself to throw lightning. But, what about you?
Yeah, I would say, probably for me would be, so this kind of stemmed from when I started going to school. Actually, no, it was before that. Mm-hmm. So I went to school. Gonna kind of give you guys a little map here. Mm-hmm. I lived in Maquoketa. Went to school,
which is, for those viewers, where would you, if this is a person that's like has never heard, because until 2 years ago I probably never even heard of Duke.
Yeah.
So how would you describe Maquoketa?
A tiny small Iowa town, like kind of just
on the right side of the state.
Yes, on the eastern corner of the state. So I lived in Maquoketa. I would drive 30 minutes to school in Bellevue, which was kind of northeast-ish of there. And then I would have to go, after I would go to school, do all that, I would drive 30 minutes north up to Dubuque. I would lift, and I didn't even hit up in Dubuque at this point. So then I would drive 30 minutes back home. My mom had dinner ready. I would eat. I would immediately hop back in my car. I would drive 15 more minutes to a very, very small town outside of Maquoketa called Delmer.
PC?
Yep. I would hit there, just do, like, all by myself. Like, it's 9 o'clock, and this hitting facility was right off of a gravel road on a farm. Like, no cell service.
If that doesn't scream Iowa, I have no idea.
The most Iowa training ever.
I love it.
I would, like, it's dark outside, but obviously I'm inside the facility. I'm blasting music.
Yeah.
I'm there by myself. I throw into the net, and then I would just get out a tee, and they had a hit tracks there, and I would literally just do weird things. Like I would put wrist weights on my hands to try and get my hands faster.
That's electric.
Like I would just literally anything I could try and do to, like, I mean, I had a routine, but like it's just doing random things, and I would literally just each day I just tried to hit the ball as hard as I could. Exactly. And I took my exit velo from like 85 to like 95.
That's electric.
And hit anymore, but like that was definitely like I was putting in like, and then I would go home, shower, homework, bed, and do it all again the next day. Yeah. That's definitely the most gritty thing I've ever done.
I love it.
And yeah, I mean, for those who don't know, like Maquoketa is like a half-hour drive too, right?
Well,
from Dubuque.
From Dubuque, it's 45 minutes.
Dubuque is right on the Mississippi River, where the state to the east of us is Illinois, and then northeast is Wisconsin. Maquoketa is 30 minutes south of that.
And then
So-
Bellevue
And then
was, if you follow the river down, it was over here. So I was making a huge triangle every single
You probably
day.
ate up some gas. How often
Yeah.
do you have to fill up your car?
I would have to
Okay.
fill up my car every 2 to 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
that's a lot.
I went through like over like a quarter of a tank a day. Thank God my parents were
Yeah.
providing
Yeah.
for me because
Shout out Ranger.
there's that's my dog. I obviously wouldn't have been able to like. I don't know if you guys. I'd like to talk about this. My family, not a sports family at all. My dad played football in high school. That's it. Like never played baseball. Mom never played any sports.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like been a cool thing. I'm sure for my parents and for me. I'm at a NAIA in Dubuque, Iowa. Like not a lot of people. Like me personally, like I would love to be at Tennessee or
Yeah.
everyone would. But like seeing how proud my parents are in me and like how much they've done to support me is like kind of cool. You know?
No, that's awesome.
So like I don't know, like did you guys come up from baseball oriented families or
You wanna answer first?
Yeah,
how
sure.
did that-
Yeah, my dad, born and raised in Dubuque. He played baseball at Loras College in Dubuque, and he met my mom there. My mom ran track at Loras College.
Okay.
So, I mean, cliche, like, I probably do get some athleticism from my mom. She was really good, like, track runner at Loras, like, All-American and stuff like that, ran sprints. And then my dad played baseball at Loras and, like, enjoyed it, but, like, it was never as a kid, like, let's go to the cage, let's work. Like, it was always just, like, my parents would just sign me up for basketball or flag football and just find what works. And I'm extremely fortunate. They were never the type to, like, really just force me into it. Like, that's something I just found that was something that just, what forced me into it was just me, like, having goals, pretty much. And that's it. Like, I wanted something out of life, and that's what kept me showing up every day.
Yeah, that was the same thing. My parents are high school sweethearts. My dad played all different types of sports: basketball, baseball. Went to a local junior college to play baseball, but his elbow would get like the size of a tennis ball whenever he would throw. Granted, I have no idea what that means, but probably not the best. So he decided to more so focus on education. My mom was, I think she was a cheerleader in high school, so she wasn't really more athletic type, but she runs like 5 to 10 miles every single day. Does a lot of very active person. But I grew up in a whole entire sports family. Everyone loves sports. Some of my best childhood memories are playing wiffle ball in the front yard or playing ping pong in the backyard. Like just a bunch of stuff. It all was revolved around sports. And I think my dad and my parents thought that it taught certain aspects like that Tommy touched on and Christian touched on, like discipline and motivation. It taught you a bunch of life skills that in order to be successful, whether it be in baseball or just in overall society, that you have to have.
Yeah.
I think, and just like Tommy said, like my parents never forced me to play or anything. They just wanted me to be happy. They wanted me to like do something. I think when I was a little bit younger, whether it be like, I know my middle brother was into drama and that was perfect for him, but they just wanted us to be into something.
Yeah.
And I think for me, and it was baseball, and I just, ever since I was like 2 years old, I always had a ball or a bat in my hand, so kind of never looked back.
That's just crazy because, like, granted, I did have somebody who kind of pushed me along my way, but it's kind of like you see parents nowadays that like try and push it upon their kids so much, and it's like, granted, like we're all in different stages of the game or whatever, but we found that ourselves.
Yeah.
Essentially, if you think about it, like we had somebody push us, but
not push us, like force us to do
like
it.
my parents weren't making me do that whole triangle just to hit every single day. They supported it, but like they weren't like, oh, you're not going to hit today. Like that was never a question. It was more like, you sure you don't want to stay home one night? And it was like, no, like this is what I'm doing. Like, this is like I need to go do it.
I was just gonna make a point off that, similar to what Chris said, is like it really does show with 3 different household backgrounds. Like, it really does. It doesn't matter where you come from, but it does come from within.
Yeah.
You know, it totally is just comes from within, because I'm sure we can all think of plenty of names in Little League that were the best player growing up, and they don't play in high school. Like,
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it. Not everyone has to go play baseball, but like it's interesting how that works. That it's like everyone has a different upbringing, but like it just ultimately comes from within.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. It's just kind of fascinating because I feel like the main focus is what you just said. It's something that I feel like it's one thing that maybe doesn't go the right way, that either it kind of pushes you away from it, or you would kind of embrace it and want to work hard at it. You know what I mean? Whether that be a bad season, like I know you mentioned batting 9th on your travel ball team.
Yeah.
And I know for you, struggling, like putting pressure on yourself, struggling with pitching or hitting, like, and I've had those things too. Like, it's just kind of interesting how 3 different backgrounds, but the same motivation to just pursue and be the best selves that we could.
Yeah.
If there, just to kind of cap everything off, is there a place where people can find you on social media if you guys post on social media, and then 2, what is one account on social media that you have learned from that 15-year-old Johnny that loves TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat? What would you recommend for them to follow? So what is, and who wants to start?
Yeah, I'll start here. Yeah, my Instagram is TJ Specht, TJSPECHT _. And I'd say I'll speak from the hitting side because I'm the hitting one here.
Mm-hmm.
Follow Trey Hannum, TJ Hannum on Instagram. Just good videos. Like, he's not like, showing, all these drills that you're gonna find, but like he's more like, I feel like is very good for younger kids who like learning from Instagram and just showing like the philosophy of hitting and seeing how other hitters do it. I think he's extremely, would be beneficial to like a middle school or high school kid or even younger than that, just to see his stuff. So I mean, he's top notch dude, like top notch hitting coach. But I would say that's the one to follow.
Perfect. Well, you, Chris.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, just all lowercase, Christian Prull, CHRISTIN, and then Prull, PRULL. I would say, first of all, like, social media and training can be a trap. I just want to throw it out there. Like, I feel like, kind of like you were saying, like, people put things out on social media, like it's all their highlights, or training wise, like
it could be utilized for a good thing or a bad
yes,
thing.
like so don't be careful what you trust on social media. First of all, like, I'm a person who, like, I'm not a very analytical person. Like, I kind of take in a bunch of information around me and I feel kind of what I think I should do. But I would say one person that I've gotten in more touch with recently, follow him on Twitter, is it the guy you showed me?
Josh Gesner.
Yeah, Josh Gesner.
Great follow.
I've really liked the stuff that he's put. It's got kind of a little bit of everything about, one, his kind of journey that's all over the place, kind of cool to show that anything can happen. 2, just great mentality stuff, things like that. And then there's also things about training, kind of how to gain velo, things like that. That's like the one person to me that, like, I've kind of looked into, and it's like, okay, like, this has got a little bit of everything that I can put into my life that will make me a better person and baseball player.
I love it. Well, boys.
How about you?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you can find me at, honestly, I don't even know. I think it's Popham _Casey _5 on Twitter. Just look up my name and it'll pop up. And then a guy that I would follow. There's a few. I think Gesner's a good one. A guy that I recently got into, he's a guy at Driveline. I've talked to him a few times, but I think he's a really good follow for people that don't want to take the straight line approach. His name's Bryce Kreider. Kreider Performance. He's a guy I have a lot of Driveline roots, so he's a guy. He's a smart guy. I know I've talked with some of the athletes that he works with, and I like how he programs, and I think he just kind of puts stuff out there with a lot of explanation for why he does it. And I think a lot of people put stuff out there but don't necessarily explain the why. So I think that's a great follow. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff, guys. Just be careful with who you follow and what information you take in. Just like Chris said. But guys, I just want to say thank you for hopping on the podcast. It's been awesome, just talking baseball, and yeah, it's been great. And yeah, I appreciate you guys being on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Of course. And guys, thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I'd really appreciate it if you guys give a like on the video and maybe hit me with a subscribe. That would be great. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, and hope you guys have a nice day or night.